The Bengals have added to their defense in a big way this offseason. They haven't addressed linebacker. Was that by design? Was that the plan? You'll hear from assistant GM Mike Pototts and two key pieces of the Bengals defense right now on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Hi again, everyone, and welcome into CBT. I'm James Rapine of BengalsTalk.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, join the 65,000 plus Bengals fans that have hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Check us out wherever you get your podcast. And boy, oh boy, are we excited to be here with you each and every day, all off season long. We get it. The NFL draft's in the books, and there's a hole. We told you there was going to be a hole after the draft that we were discussing, and it is linebacker. The Bengals passed on multiple linebackers that we thought maybe they would be in on, right? Jacob Rodriguez, we thought they'd be in on him. CJ Allen, I think, was on their board. We thought they'd be on him and on one of these guys. Well, no, they went with a guy in Cassius Howe who's going to get some heat on opposing quarterbacks. I like the pick, had my grades up earlier this week, but it does bring up a question, and there's been a lot of fans that have talked about it. The question is simple. Were the Bengals in on linebacker? Do they just believe in Demetrius Knight? Do they just believe in Barrett Carter? Was the plan to always punt on linebacker and address the other parts of the defense? I asked Mike Potts about linebacker, about their plan in this narrative that, yeah, they weren't in on addressing linebacker. They weren't open to addressing linebacker. They were focused on the other positions because I think a lot of people feel that way. And so when the assistant GM of the Bengals, Mike Potts, joined us on Locked On Bengals, I had to ask him about linebacker and if they just weren't that interested in addressing the position.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's true at all, that we didn't want to address linebacker. We wanted to address every position, but we also didn't want to overdraft anybody and force a need, and we wanted to get proper value with our picks in the draft, and we wanted to get proper value back in free agency as well. So, I think you can make mistakes when you force needs like that. I think at the same time you can look at it. We were very strong on the defensive line going into the draft, and we still drafted 2 defensive linemen. Now we're extremely strong and that much stronger, in my opinion, on the D line. But if for any linebacker or any other position that we addressed that we didn't address, that takes away from one of the guys that we really liked that we ended up selecting. So it never ends up perfect in terms of checking all the boxes in the draft. And I do think if you check all the boxes for need, then you probably didn't get proper value in the draft unless you were just extremely lucky with the way the board fell to you. So that's the way it played out. And whether it's linebacker or any other position, there's still avenues to address those, whether it's trades, whether it's guys that are still out there as free agents. Obviously, the waiver wire, the cut down towards the end of preseason is something that we've been relatively active on and do our homework there as well. So there are still avenues. And like I said, whether it's linebacker or any other position, we're going to still continue to look to upgrade.
I've been trying to say that. I hope that people are aware that, yes, the Bengals were in on linebacker. There were many scenarios where they addressed it in free agency. Even though that didn't happen, if you play free agency out 10 times, there's probably 8 times where they add a linebacker, a real linebacker that could help them, that could start, that could make a difference. And I think that's it, is if they were going to spend on that position, it was going to be a difference maker, a guy that they really believed in. If they were going to spend a second or a third round pick on that position, it was going to be on a difference maker, a guy they really believed in. The Bengals really looked at this, and this is why I love the Cassius Howe pick. A big part of it is because they're saying, you know what? He's clearly the best player on our board. Draft players, not positions. That's my motto. And he's going to give us a strength. Our defensive front can be a strength. Our pass rush on paper is a strength. Now, obviously, they got to go out and do it. But I would much rather that than them force linebacker. This is the same person that was down on the Demetrius Knight pick. They forced linebacker last year. You can't do that again this year and hope that it turns out differently. And so if there wasn't a linebacker that they felt was worth it at pick 41 or at pick 72 or not ranked higher than Takario Davis in round 3 or a guy in Cassius Howe, who obviously I'm high on in round 2, I totally get it. I totally understand it. And this idea that, oh, well, they haven't addressed linebacker, they were never in on linebacker. Well, I'll sell that all day long. I don't believe that one bit. I think Mike Potts told you right there that there were, in Steve Radicevic as well, and you could check out this video on this channel. I asked him on Saturday. It was Saturday of the draft. I asked him about linebacker. The draft was still going on, and he was like, look, this isn't by design. Sometimes it's how it falls, and that's okay. And guess what? I get it. And I respect that they didn't feel the pressure. We have to address this position no matter what. It's the one position where I would have punted on. If you can get game changers in other places, safety with Brian Cook, defensive front, multiple additions in the draft and free agency, obviously the Dexter Lawrence trade. So it makes a ton of sense to me. Up next, clips of Barrett Carter and Demetrius Knight, what they had to say in the locker room earlier this week. But first, I have to tell you about my friend Christian Husky, because Christian Husky is who you need right now if you're looking for your dream home, if you're looking to downsize, if you're looking for real estate advice. Christian Husky is the man to go to. All you have to do is go to sipsyklein.com/chusky. That's right, sipsyklein.com/chusky, and he is going to make sure that you are taken care of. Again, that's sipsyklein.com/chusky. You can talk Bengals with them while you're there. Today's video is also brought to you by Rivertown Inquiry. Rivertown Inquiry is a one-stop shop for all of your apparel needs. You see this Nike polo I'm wearing? Guess what? That's Cincinnati Bengals Talk logo. If you're looking on YouTube, they put that bad boy on there. I love Rivertown Inquiry. You will too. Maybe you're looking for some FC Cincinnati gear to wear to a match. Maybe you're thinking, the Reds are rolling right now. I want to get some Reds gear. Well, Rivertown Inquiry has all of it in one spot, rivertowninquiry.com. You can also check them out, their Findlay Market location or their Oakley location. Again, that's rivertowninquiry.com. Look, Barrett Carter and Demetrius Knight have to play better. There's no doubt about it. It's just what has to happen. Even if they had signed a big name free agent linebacker, that would be the case. Even if they had drafted whatever linebacker you wanted, maybe it was Sonny Styles at 10. Guess what? Knight, Carter would have to play better. And there's no denying that. And they're clearly aware of that. Here's a clip of both of those guys earlier this week in the Bengals locker room.
There's a ton of talk, but, we don't look at it just because, it can be hit or miss. It can be comments out there that bring you up, and then, 2 comments later, it brings you down. But that's what this sport is. People have their opinions, and hey, bring them on. We don't read them for mental health reasons, but, it's a building block. We know what we need to work on. So we're not really focusing on, if we got better, got worse. We know that we're always in each other's ear. We're here for each other. We're growing together.
How much y'all talk in the offseason?
We talk a good bit. We check in. That's my brother. Despite the Clemson, South Carolina thing, when we become rivals again that time of the year. Other than that, we're brothers. We're inseparable. Wasn't expected to be a Clemson Tiger to be my brother, but hopefully everybody in Carolina can forgive me for that one. But definitely my brother.
None of those guys that they drafted or the guys they signed in free agency play your position. How big of a vote of confidence did that feel to you?
It feels great. I know that they trust what we have in this building. They trust me, D-Knight, OB, Joe, all the guys, Shaka. So it means the world to me, and it instills a lot of confidence in me. So I'm just ready to just keep working, keep stacking days, bring a championship back to Cincinnati.
Why do you think it is, Barrett, that they constantly and continually give you that vote of confidence, whether it's Zach, whether it's Al Golden, whether it's Duke Tobin? Why do you think, what is it that they see in you and Demetrius?
Yeah, I would say it didn't happen overnight. It was a lot of work that went into it. Definitely came in and made mistakes, but that's a part of the process. So I would say just building that trust. It definitely did not happen overnight. We definitely worked our asses off to get to this point and still to what we're trying to achieve in the future. So we're nowhere near satisfied. We have to show each other, show the world why they have this confidence in us. So definitely instills a lot, but ready to just go to work and bring a shit back to Cincy.
It's going to be interesting to see what the Bengals do. And that entire video is up on our channel right now. You can listen to that entire interview and both of those interviews on wherever you get your podcast if you're listening. So make sure you check that out. But for me, it's going to be interesting to see how they navigate this, because the Bengals clearly working through some cap stuff, and they're clearly looking at things. And I think it's clear that linebacker is still a need. It's clear that it's something that they wanted to address. In an ideal world, they would have addressed it. It didn't work out. They didn't force it. I respect that decision. But now is the time of year where you start to look at that and say, all right, well, who can we get? Who can we bring in? And on a later video, I'll certainly dive into some of those names who I would consider, who I would target first, then maybe go second, third, because you need some options and you need to add to that room. You just do. Is it going to be what it was a few months ago when free agency opened? No, it's not going to be that same level of talent. There are guys in the draft that you could have added. It didn't happen. Fine. You can't pass on it completely. So we will see what they do. Obviously, we're going to have you covered every step of the way. If you missed this week's episode of Enter the Jungle, please check that out. If you missed all of our draft coverage, please check that out as well. And until next time, for Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Cincinnati Bengals Talk.